Education in Romania is based on a tuition-free, egalitarian system. Access to free education is guaranteed by Article 32 in the Constitution of Romania. Education is regulated and enforced by the Ministry of Education and Research. Each step has its own form of organization and is subject to different laws and directives. Since the downfall of the communist regime, the Romanian educational system has been through several reforms. Kindergarten is optional under the age of 6. At the age of 6, children must join the preparatory school year, which is mandatory in order to enter the first grade. Schooling starts at the age of 7, and is compulsory until the 10th grade. The school educational cycle ends in the 12th grade, when students graduate the baccalaureate. Higher education is aligned onto the European higher education area. As of August 2010, there were approximately 4,700 open schools in Romania. As of 2011, over 3 million students were enrolled in the educational system. Kindergarten. Children can start as early as 3 years old and can stay until they are 6 or 7 years old. Kindergarten is optional and typically lasts for 3 or 4 forms. Small group for children aged 3 to 4, middle group for children aged 4 to 5, big group for children aged 5 to 6, and school preparation class for children aged 6 to 7. The preparation class became compulsory, and is a requirement in order to enter primary school. Services include initiation in foreign languages, introduction in computer studies, dancing, swimming, etc. All kindergartens will provide at least one meal or one snack, some having their own kitchens and their own cooks, others opting for dedicated catering services. Many kindergartens will provide children with transportation to and from the kindergarten. Groups typically have 1 to 2 teachers and 10 to 15 children. Most kindergartens offer parents 3 types of programs, in order to better suit the parents' schedules: a short schedule, a medium schedule and a long schedule. The private sector has a very large role in providing kindergarten and daycare services, having a large proportion in the market share for preschool education. Typical tuition fees for private kindergarten range between 400 and 1,600 lei monthly, depending on the town, city where the institution is located and on the services offered, whereas for public kindergarten there is no tuition fee. The relative number of available places in kindergartens is small, many having waiting lists or requiring admission and formalities to be done at least 6 months in advance. The lack of available places is especially obvious in state-run kindergartens that charge no tuition fees, especially given the relatively high tuition fees of private venues. Local councils, especially in larger cities, where both parents typically work, seeing an increase in demand, have begun investing in expanding existing kindergartens, building new ones or offering stipends for private kindergartens is to cover part of the tuition fees. Elementary school. Elementary school lasts 8 years in Romania. Most elementary schools are public. MEC statistics show less than 2% of elementary school students attend private school. Unless parents choose a school earlier, the future student is automatically enrolled in the school nearest to his or her residence. Some schools that have a good reputation are flooded with demands from parents even 2 or 3 years in advance. A negative consequence of this is that in many schools classes are held in 2 shifts lasting from as early as 7 a.m. to as late as 8 p.m. Education is free in public schools, but not entirely. School starts in the middle of September and ends in the middle of June the following year. It is divided into 2 semesters. There are 4 holiday seasons in April, 2 weeks, and summer, spanning from the middle of June to September 15th, with an additional free week in November for students in the first 4 years. Additionally, during the week before the spring holiday, special activities replace classes. A class can have up to 30 students, and there can be as few as 1 class per grade or as many as 20 classes per grade. Usually each group has its own classroom. Each group has its own designation, usually the grade followed by a letter of the alphabet. Grading conventions for the first 4 years. A system similar to ESNU is used, known as qualificative. These are forte bine, excellent bine, good, satisfactor, sufficient, satisfactory, actually meaning passing, nesatisfactor, insufficient, failed. Students who get an N, I must take an exam in the summer with a special assembly of teachers, and if the situation is not improved, the student will repeat the whole year. Qualifiers are given throughout the year, in a system of year-long assessment, on tests, schoolwork, homework or projects. The average for a subject is calculated by the teacher taking into account the progress of the student and by using a 1 to 4 value for each qualifier. 4 equals 3.5. Therefore B, taking into account that the performance of the student has lowered over time, may be B, FB. FB will also be 3.5 but will be marked as FB because the performance has improved over time. There is no average calculated for the whole year, but only per subject per semester. For grade 5 to 12, a 1 to 10 grading system is used, with 10 being the best, 1 being the worst and 5 being the minimum passing grade. The system of continuous assessment is also used, with individual marks for each test, oral examination, project, homework or classwork being entered in the register. There must be at least as many notes for a subject as the number of weekly classes for that subject plus 1. Some subjects also require a partial examination at the end of the semester. This requirement is, however, regulated by the ministry as mandatory and cannot be changed. The partial is valued at 25% of the final mark, and for grades 5 to 8 it applies to Romanian language and mathematics and only in the 8th year, geography or history, and in the case of a bilingual school or one with teaching in a minority language, that particular language. The marks are given on the basis of strict ministerial guidelines, as they count for high school repartition. At the end of each semester, an average is computed following a 4-step procedure. First, all marks are added and an arithmetical average is computed from those marks. If there is a tesa, this average, with 0.01 precision, is multiplied by 3, the mark at the tesa is added, then everything is divided by 4. This average is then rounded to the closest integer and forms the semester average per subject. The next step is computing the yearly average per subject. This is done by adding the 2 semester averages per subject and divided by 2. This is not rounded. The last step is adding all the yearly averages per subject and dividing that amount by the total number of subjects. This forms the yearly grade average. This is neither weighted nor rounded. If the yearly average per subject is below 5 for a maximum of 2 subjects, then the student must take a special exam at the failed subject in August, in front of a school board. If he fails this exam, he must repeat the entire year. If the yearly average per subject is below 5 for 3 subjects or more, the student is no longer entitled to the special exam and must repeat the year. Example: a student in the 7th year with 4 weekly classes of math may have the following marks: 6, 6, 7, 7 in class and 5 in tesa. His semester average for math is round 4 plus 5, 4 equals 6. If he had 7 in the other semester, his annual average for math is 6.5. Primary school: the first 4 years are taught by a single teacher for the most subjects. Additional teachers are assigned only for a few specialized subjects. At the end of primary school, curriculum starts to become congested and it led over time to the high-performance educational system we know today. For instance, a 4th grade student may have on a weekly basis 4 classes of math, 4 to 5 classes of Romanian language, 1 class of history, 1 class of geography, 1 to 2 classes of science, 2 classes of art, 1 to 3 classes of a foreign language, 1 or 2 classes of Introduction to Computers ***, 1 class of civic education, 1 of religion *, 1 of music, 2 of physical education *. These subjects may or may not have teachers other than the main teacher. **** These subjects almost always have teachers other than the main teacher. Gymnasium classes are reshaped at the end of the 4th grade, based on academic performances. Many schools have special classes. Selection for such classes is done based on local tests. Assessing the students' performance is also different between primary and gymnasium cycles. Starting with the 5th grade, students have a different teacher for each subject. Furthermore, each class has a teacher designated to be class principal, besides teaching his or her usual subject. Additional counseling may be provided by a special counselor or by a school psychologist. An 8th grade schedule may contain up to 30 to 32 hours weekly, or 6 hours daily, thus making it quite intensive. For instance, 4 classes of math, 4 classes of Romanian language, 2 classes of history, 2 classes of geography, 2 classes of biology, 1 classes of introduction to computers, 4 classes of a foreign language, usually French language and English language, 2 classes of a second organ, 2 classes of physics, 2 classes of chemistry, 1 class of Latin, 1 class of art and music, 1 class of religion, 1 class of civic education, 1 class of technology, 2 classes of physical education. In addition, schools may add 1 or 2 subjects at their free choice. This possibility gave rise to intensive English classes or informatics groups, accessible only by special exams in the 5th grade. Life in elementary schools. Life in a city school is very different from life in a rural school. An urban school will have over 100 or 200 students per year, science labs and well-stocked computer labs, clubs based on different interests, teaching assistants and psychologists, free speech therapy and academic programs for gifted students, whereas rural schools are usually tiny, with some, in villages, providing only 4 years education, the rest being offered at a nearby larger village, having only 1 teacher for all students, a situation almost identical to the one existing at the turn of the 20th century. Transportation to and from school is almost never provided, and in extreme cases, in remote villages, students as young as 6 must walk up to 10 kilometers to school if there is no bus or train. Only starting in 2003 was a very limited rural transportation service introduced. Public transport for all students is in theory free, but, because of a very awkward system, students end up paying half the price for a season ticket. Students also pay half price at all commuter trains operated by Kyle for 8 Romaine. All schools follow the tradition of school shifts. Thus, school starts for some groups at 7:30 or 800 and ends at 1200 to 1430, while other groups start at 1100 to 1330 and end at 1700 to 1930. Normally, a class lasts 50 minutes, followed by a 10-minute break. From November until March, some schools reduce classes to 45 minutes and breaks to 5 minutes. For fear that 6:30 or 7:30 in the evening is too late and too dangerous an hour to leave school during the dark. School days are Monday to Friday. Some schools have a uniform for the first 4 grades, either the ministry standardized issue or one of their own design. Years V8 almost never have a school uniform, nor any other dress code. There is no school lunch in most schools, as school either ends before lunch or starts after lunch, although few schools have an after-school program that may include lunch. Both urban and rural schools may organize clubs, but this is left to teachers. Dance clubs, school sports, traditions and storytelling, drama, music, applied physics or chemistry and even math clubs are popular, depending on the teachers organizing. However, participation in these clubs will not be mentioned on any diploma or certificate, nor is it required. Contests between schools exist, as well as nationwide academic contests being used to promote the best students. These contests are highly popular, as they bring many advantages to the students taking part in them, with whole classes taking part in the lower phase of such contests. Additionally, many physical education teachers organize intramural competitions and 1- or 2-day trips to the mountains. Other teachers usually also organize such trips and even whole holidays during the summer camps, this being a Romanian school tradition. However, field trips or research trips are not common, and are usually visits to museums or trips to natural habitats of various animals or plants, to gather information for a school project. Curriculum: in elementary schools there are up to 15 compulsory subjects and up to 5 optional subjects. However, unlike in the United Kingdom or France, these optional subjects are chosen by the school and imposed on the student. They are known as school-decided curriculum and are usually extensions to the compulsory subjects. For the duration of the elementary school, each student must take 10 years of mathematics, Romanian, music, art and physical education, up to 8 years of religion, 5 years of geography and history, 6 years in the first foreign language, 4 years in the second foreign language, 4 years of civic education, 1 year of science, 4 years of biology, 3 years of physics, 2 years of chemistry, 4 years of IT, although in many places this subject can be optionally studied all the 8 years of elementary schools.